I'm touring a show that I created called Finding My Voice, and it's stories and songs.
Did you know that Kathleen Turner broke every rule in Hollywood and did it with a confidence that left everyone in awe? From dazzling performances to jaw-dropping interviews, Turner has always been one step ahead of the game. From bold career choices to personal struggles nearly ending it all, Kathleen Turner's life is a roller coaster of surprises. And let's just say you're about to be taken on a ride where she left absolutely nothing to the imagination. Her early years. Before Kathleen Turner was the bold, brassy Hollywood icon we know today, she was but a girl from Missouri with fire in her belly. Born in 1954, Turner was always destined to stand out. She was raised by a rigorous family with a diplomat father, so her early years were replete with discipline and expectations. Young Kathleen had dreams that were far bigger than the confines of her upbringing, but Turner's path to Hollywood stardom was anything but smooth. After attending drama school in London, she cut her teeth in the theater and grew confident enough to handle any role. But her big break? That came with Body Heat back in 1981. And believe me, nobody saw that coming. The sultry, steamy Body Heat wasn't just a thriller, an announcement that Kathleen Turner had arrived. Impossible to resist, even more terrifying as the dangerously seductive Maddie Walker. Audiences couldn't get enough of it, while critics got left dumbfounded. Turner wasn't acting, she commanded every second of screen time. It was as if Hollywood had found its new leading lady overnight. But then again, her success in Body Heat was not some lucky break. Turner had this unmistakable combination of raw talent and fearless determination. She did not show any fear of plunging headfirst into intense, controversial roles that many actresses at the time wouldn't have dared touch. And boy, did it pay off. Hollywood took notice. With that throaty voice, those smoldering looks, and a screen presence that can send shivers down your spine, she became the go-to actress for roles showcasing sex appeal and strength. This wasn't an era of fragile damsel-in-distress type characters. Turner was selling something entirely different. However, the real kicker no one had expected was that Kathleen Turner was more than just looking good on camera. Behind the scenes, she was already making waves as a gritty actress, one who insisted on respect and would challenge directors and even studio heads if she believed in her vision of a character. Even then, her fierce independence was to become a foretelling of the extraordinary career that she would have. While Body Heat was Turner's ticket to stardom, the decision she made afterwards truly cemented her position as Hollywood royalty. It wasn't just her choice of roles, but how she conducted herself on and off screen. Turner was different, and Hollywood knew it. She wouldn't be typecast or molded into what the industry expected of a leading lady. But what happened next would be a defining point in her career. Kathleen Turner was literally on top of the world and about to make some choices that would shock everyone. Critics and even Hollywood insiders were shocked. Iconic roles in Hollywood stardom. The success of Body Heat started Kathleen Turner's career off at a blistering pace, yet she wasn't just content with merely being Hollywood's newest sensation. Turner wanted more daring roles, opportunities to flex her range, and more chances to redefine what it truly meant to be a leading lady in Hollywood. And so she did. In 1984, she headlined Romancing the Stone, the adventure comedy that paired her with Michael Douglas and firmly positioned her as a box office powerhouse. As the adventurous and quick-witted Joan Wilder in that film, Turner showed the world that she wasn't just about the smoldering, intense performances. She could do action, comedy, and romance all in one breath and still have audiences begging for more. She sizzled with chemistry opposite Douglas, and her success in the film begat its 1985 sequel, The Jewel of the Nile. By the mid-'80s, Kathleen Turner was one of the most sought-after actresses in the industry. But here comes the real twist. If most actresses would have held on to the roles depicting them as romantic or sexy, Turner had other plans. She wanted to challenge herself to take on roles that would push her limits. So in 1986, she proceeded to surprise all critics and audiences alike with her performance in Peggy Sue Got Married. As a woman getting the chance to relive her high school years, Turner gave such a profoundly emotional and nuanced performance. It garnered the Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, proving she wasn't some pretty face. Turner had the chops to take on complex, emotionally driven roles, and she could do it better than almost anyone else. But then, when you thought Turner couldn't top that, she paired again with Michael Douglas in The War of the Roses. Only this time it wasn't some kind of romantic adventure. They were at war. Playing a couple going through a bitter and occasionally violent divorce, Turner and Douglas gave audiences one of the decade's darker and more comedic films. The film was edgy, much like Turner herself. She held nothing back with a character's ugly, raw sides, and this was where her fearlessness continued to set her apart from her peers. But there was one thing that Turner invariably brought to each of the various roles she played: an undeniable presence. Not because of her looks, not because of her voice, though those certainly helped, but because of how she took on a character inside and out. When Kathleen Turner was on screen, you couldn't look away. She had this magnetic quality where even the most complex or flawed characters were captivating. While the performances on screen were unforgettable, behind-the-scenes stories often left people talking. Turner was known to speak her mind and not play by Hollywood rules. Whether pushing back against directors or standing up for herself in a highly male-dominated industry, Kathleen Turner didn't just play strong women on screen, she lived it. Controversies and bold statements. Kathleen Turner never minced words, which was part of what made her persona so captivating both on and off the screen. Within an industry built on double standards, Turner was one of those women who never kept to herself, even one thought in her head one, which would ruffle feathers or not. From her outspoken criticism of Hollywood's entrenched sexism and ageism, to candid comments about fellow actors and directors, Turner constantly pushed the envelope, and let's just say she left nothing to the imagination. One of the most remembered statements comes from the toxic beauty standards that women in Hollywood have to put up with. She said in an interview, "The male actors can age, they get fat opposite of a 20-something. But God forbid a woman shows a wrinkle or gains a pound." This type of straight-shooting frankness earned both respect and dread for her. Turner was calling out an industry that prided itself on its glamour, but one that also disposed of women once they were no longer young or beautiful. But it wasn't just sexism that Turner railed against. She also had sharp words for ageism in Hollywood, hearing her experience firsthand as her roles grew thinner with time. Despite proof that she was an acting powerhouse, Turner found herself routinely being put out to pasture once she reached a certain age. "They wanted me to disappear quietly," she once said. But Turner was never one to go quietly. She continued fighting for roles that showcased her talents rather than her age, while calling out the deeply rooted age discrimination in the industry. Her bold statements didn't stop at an attack on Hollywood standards, though. When she spoke candidly about her experiences with some of Hollywood's biggest names, Turner wasn't beyond ruffling feathers. In her memoir, Send Yourself Roses, Turner called out actors like Nicolas Cage and Burt Reynolds for their unprofessional behavior, which won applause and backlash in equal measure. Her brutal honesty regarding on-set antics brooked no doubt. If something could be said, Turner would say it. Though celebrities rarely, if ever, make such scathing public criticisms, Turner came into her own in this role. She didn't just air Hollywood's dirty little secrets in interviews and her memoir wholesale. Instead, she did it unapologetically with a kind of defiance to which everyone was envious. But what she did next, behind the scenes, caught them all off guard. For Turner, it wasn't just a question of being a rebel in words. Through an acting career, she translated those convictions into practical reality to change the things she rallied against. She became a vocal advocate for more realistic portrayals of women on screen, and worked behind the scenes to fight for improved opportunities afforded to older actresses. Indeed, she once said, "We deserve to be seen for who we are, complex, strong, and unapologetically human." This isn't all talk for Turner. It is active fighting for change and leaving her mark on an industry that sometimes isn't ready to change with her. But her career and influence weren't limited to her critiques. Kathleen Turner's raw honesty and relentless pursuit of fairness made her a trailblazer. And that's why, even today, people still talk about the fearless Kathleen Turner, who wasn't afraid to say what everyone else was only whispering. The downfall, illness, controversy, and Hollywood's cold shoulder. At the height of her powers, Kathleen Turner was unstoppable. With one hit following another, it seemed she held Hollywood within her hand. But away from the red carpets and adoring reviews, the storm began to brew, one which even Kathleen had not expected. What does one do when your own body starts to go against you, and an industry for which you struggled to rise to the top suddenly acts as if it doesn't want anything to do with you? It came silently. Turner first began to feel a sharp discomfort and stiffness in her joints, symptoms that later proved to be rheumatoid arthritis. This wasn't just any sickness, it was a life-changing condition that would alter the course of her career forever. For an actress whose power lay not only in her voice and face but in her physical presence, this diagnosis was devastating. This forced her to slow down. For a person as fiercely driven as Turner, that is no easy thing to do. Hollywood showed no mercy, however. There was little room for sympathy in an industry often built upon youth, beauty, and perfection. Before long, the scripts that at one time flood through her door start drying up, and Turner's star power starts to fade. But was this just about her illness, or was something else in play? As the illness worsened, Turner started using alcohol to deaden the pain both physically and emotionally. Publicized slip-ups and heavy criticism then followed. The Hollywood tabloids went into overdrive, telling stories of her on-set behavior, drinking, and even her appearance. This woman had once been feted and extolled for her beauty and strength, but was now being raked over the coals for perceived weaknesses. But here's the rub. Kathleen Turner wasn't one to go down without a fight. She very publicly battled rheumatoid arthritis and admitted to her struggles with alcohol, getting ahead of the story before anyone else could. But even in transparency, the damage was done. Hollywood had always been fickle, and now it seemed they had no place for the aging star that once set the screen ablaze. But Turner was never one to go quietly off into oblivion. The years to come would find her finding newer ways of reinventing herself, proof that Kathleen Turner always remained full of surprises. A question could now be if she would ever be able to claw her way back into a rightful place awaiting her in Hollywood, or whether the industry was genuinely closed for good. Stage success and TV comebacks. But just when it seemed like Kathleen Turner's Hollywood career was in jeopardy, she did what she'd always done best. She adapted. It wasn't enough for Turner to wait until Hollywood called again. Instead, she took center stage, quite literally, and turned her attention toward another passion. Returning to her thespian roots, Turner began to conquer Broadway, whereby her voice and presence could still dazzle them without scrutinizing a camera's unforgiving lens. On stage, she was nothing short of mesmerizing. In The Graduate, Turner played the role of Mrs. Robinson, one that called for sensuality and vulnerability. Turner, of course, gave in spades, reminding everyone why she became such a sensation in the first place. And who could forget that unforgettable tour de force performance in Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Turner played Martha with a brutal rawness, and the critics just couldn't help but rave. The stage proved to be a haven for her creativity, which Hollywood had denied her, and she seized every moment. Returning theater wasn't some comeback performance, this was Reawakening. But Kathleen Turner wasn't merely looking to reclaim her throne on the stage. She wanted the world to know she still had the goods to glitter in front of the camera. Thus, Turner dove headfirst into television with guest appearances that reminded people why she is talent and not to be ignored. Perhaps one of her most memorable appearances had to be on Friends as Chandler Bing's drag queen dad. It was unexpected, hilarious, and true to Turner form, unforgettable. This wasn't just a cameo on Friends, but a reminder that she could still dominate any medium, role, and genre. Turner's unmistakable voice and commanding presence were still there, and she used them to full effect, keeping audiences hooked with every scene. But TV wasn't just a one-off for Turner. She continued to appear in hit shows such as Californication and Law & Order Special Victims Unit, proving that her star power hadn't dimmed, it had just evolved. Turner had learned how to reconstitute herself in a business that was always looking for the next big thing and, in so doing, had found new ways of relevance. But while she was succeeding on stage and on television, one question dogged her. Would Kathleen Turner ever find her way back onto the big screen, in a role that would remind everybody how great she was? Or was Hollywood just done with her? Defiance, strength, and the unstoppable Kathleen Turner. When you think of Kathleen Turner, it's impossible not to think of the word icon. Her career, her voice, her sheer presence, all of it has left an indelible mark on Hollywood. But Turner's legacy isn't just about the roles or awards she's won. It's about how she has faced adversity head-on, defying expectations and showing the world that true strength comes from within. Emerging from the late 2000s, Turner had fought off sickness, addiction, and Hollywood's cold shoulder to emerge stronger than ever. Perhaps that young, sultry star of body heat had gone, but in its place was something so much more magnificent: wisdom, resilience, and an unmistakable legacy that few would ever match. What has always set Turner apart from so many of her generation's actresses is how she refused to be put inside a box. Whether it was how she dove headfirst into some precarious roles early on or how brave she was speaking about health issues, Kathleen Turner has never taken the easy way. And that is precisely why she is so unforgettable. Even now, Turner continues to act, direct, and speak her mind on issues close to her heart. She has become an advocate for people who have rheumatoid arthritis, raising awareness through her platform for the condition that once threatened to derail her career. And she has accomplished all this with the same fire and brimstone spirit that captured audiences in the 80s. Her films don't define Turner's legacy. Even as Body Heat, Romancing the Stone, and Peggy Sue Got Married will forever be considered part of Hollywood's golden age, it is a legacy of defiance. It is in the way she has fought, survived, and thrived in an industry that so callously discards women as they age. Kathleen Turner left little to the imagination on screen. But with Kathleen Turner, the real magic lies not in what one sees, but what lies beneath her grit, determination, and unbelievable belief in her self-worth. She never stopped being Kathleen Turner, even when Hollywood stopped looking. And that is what makes her iconic. Kathleen Turner today. Kathleen Turner might have been a pioneer in the 80s and 90s, but she isn't fading today. Rounding into her later years, Turner is still a force of nature, as bold as ever, as head-turning as ever. Since she is taking on fewer acting roles, her impact is just as huge. One of the most memorable recent performances was her return to the stage for the solo play The Year of Magical Thinking, a role that showed her level of effort and raw acting ability. Suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, about which she has been very forthright, Turner has also continued to prove that she does not back down from an acting challenge. Turner is as loud as ever off-screen, but perhaps loudest on aging and health. She has been brutally honest about the trials that come with growing older, sharing her path with arthritis and how it has affected her in both physical and emotional ways. "You learn to adapt," she said, reflecting on her evolution. But Turner has never let her condition define her, and she's quick to remind people that aging is not the end of anything. It's just another chapter. "I've earned every wrinkle, every gray hair," she proudly says, showing once more that she is not afraid to come to reality with grace and grit. Turner has also been vocal about the contemporary landscape of Hollywood, specifically the lack of variety of opportunities for older actresses. She has called for more diverse and layered roles for women of all ages, underscoring that stories about older women may be just as compelling as those about their younger peers. Though she may not be gracing the silver screen, Turner constantly pushes the boundaries as an actress and advocate. However, true to form, Kathleen isn't showing any signs of slowing down. Recent interviews have her hinting at new projects on the horizon, thus leaving the rest of us in a state of utter curiosity about what is next for this legendary Hollywood icon. In her own words, "I'm not done yet." And in true Kathleen Turner fashion, you know she will go out with a bang, reminding us once again that she never plays by anyone else's rules but her own. There you have it, the iconic Kathleen Turner, a woman bold in her living, fierce in her words, and leaving the world with gaping eyes on every movement she made. Whether owning the screen or challenging Hollywood's status quo, she's always done it her way. Unapologetic, fearless, and undeniably magnetic. The legacy she has built with such effort is more than just memorable, it's unforgettable. But here's the real question. What will she surprise us next? With Kathleen, there's always a twist in the tale. If you want to stay on top of what's coming, hit those like and subscribe buttons and join the conversation below in the comments section.